Commissioners Drexler and myself and Gray were at a commissioners-only meeting in Dover, no, Washington, D.C., and I had to go to Lewis to come here, so that's why I'm a little bit late. Also meant I couldn't get a tie on, which I was very disappointed about.
Everyone showed to take advantage of your arrival today. I will note we have a full house.
It really is nice to see everybody out there. Okay, reading of the meeting minutes of August 21st. Any corrections, changes? Commissioner Conaway?
Move that we adopt the minutes, both of the confidential and the regular, as presented.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Correa? So Commissioner
Aye.
Correa is present as well. Thank you, Mike. The motion carries. We have public comment. Is there anyone here that wishes to make any public comment? Ms. Graham? Yes, thank you.
Hi, Mr. Chair. My name is Mary Graham, and I have been the representative of the Weldon Road interveners in the electric rate case, and thank you, Chair Winslow and members of the commission, for the opportunity to make public comment, and in fact your openness and invitation to make public comment makes it easier to come here and try to tell you our feelings about things. So we are, and the reason I'm talking now, I know Delmarva is going to talk later. We're very grateful that you have directed Delmarva to give an update on where they are in the settlement with respect to the three issues of the Weldon Road homeowners. So I want to thank you for that. And I also want to make clear, because if I don't, you might think that whatever Delmarva says, and I don't know what they're going to say, that would be the end of it. Oh, well, everything's fine and good. And we do know that, and I'm pleased that it appears that one of the elements, kind of the, I would say the highest priority element, the surge arresters on the overbuild line, it appears that they finished those last week, which we're happy about, but I assume they will give you a report on that. We don't know for sure where they are on the at-the-meter protection. If you remember, that's kind of the in-between line of protection we're looking for that Mr. Nathan, who's here today and who spoke about that before, has been researching, but I hope that they're looking into that. There's a third element having to do with the reporting, which I'm talking with them about, and if we don't work things out, I will be back about that. But the one thing I want to leave, there are two things I want to make clear to you all. If I can, and that is this global point, or two global points really. One is we didn't know anything as homeowners about the engineering of electrical service, that is for sure, and we had no clue about overbuild lines, and we've been learning, and it's been actually kind of an interesting learning process, but we start from behind, and we only have the help of, and the wonderful help at times of the public advocate and their engineer, who's been just amazing. But we are learning, and one of the things we're beginning to believe, and it fits with things that Delmarva has said, is, you know, as wonderful as these surge arresters that we expect them to be on the overbuild line, that doesn't mean there aren't going to be more power surges. And even with this at-the-meter protection, which we hope will be available, you know, we're still going to be subject to, potentially, to surges. And so I want to sit down with Delmarva, which I hope because of your involvement, Delmarva will feel inclined to do, to step back and say, okay, we did this stuff that we could do now, but where are we in the big picture? Because a customer representative said to Mr. Nathan when he called to report, if you remember the settlement agreement, increased the reporting, although it's not perfect, from homeowners. So he called to report his $4,200 of damage from the August 9th surge. And he was told by a customer service representative that the problem of our surges was of homeowners' own making, because homeowners were not agreeing to take down their trees. Well, that was news to me, and I have to think that maybe there's not been a full communication, as we often know exists. But you know, it's a point to reflect on, right? I drove Weldon Road again. There's lots of trees there. And I don't know that people were ever asked. I don't know where that stands, but that's a conversation, a big picture conversation, global point that I want to discuss with Delmarva. We did start it a little bit with Dawn Crompton, but we went right away to the, the low-hanging fruit solution. So that's I wanted to mention that. So you know that's still out there no matter what good report we get today. And second of all, just to reemphasize, it's really important that we have you all. Without you, we have nothing because, as I've said before, they have no duty to us as customers, only to their shareholders. They have no legal liability under their tariff to customers. And they don't even respond to legislators. Our wonderful legislator, Sarah McBride, who was really forceful, is the one who started a community meeting, and that did nothing if we had to intervene. So we're really grateful, and we hope you will, as they say, stay on the line, and that we can come back to you as time rolls along and we see what happens. So thank you.
Don't move.
Okay.
Don't move.
All right.
How much time do you have this afternoon for us?
I'm going to stay to hear Delmarva.
Okay, well, why don't you move over to your right and stay at the table? And
Okay.
that way, if you want to make a few comments, then you can do so, and we maybe expedite the discussion a little bit that way.
Okay. And I don't think they're going to make comments, but both Mr. Nathan and a neighbor of his, Mr. Nedwick, I believe, are here today. So I want you to know that they are watching and they're interested. And I don't think they feel they need to make a comment right now, but they are here.
Well, the way we feel is that if they would like to make a comment, we would be very happy to hear from them. But obviously, you are doing a great job of representing the community, so I can understand why they may not want to make a comment. Is there anybody else from the public that wishes to make public comment?
I believe Mr. Jordan wanted to say a few words.
Yeah, no, I understand that. He's going to give us more
Just,
than,
employee introductions, actually, unrelated.
yeah, okay.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I wanted to take a moment to make two comments. First, to introduce Delmarva's newest attorney, Mr. Kenneth Wan, who's here to my left. Mr. Wan is a Delaware attorney. He's recently hired by Delmarva, and I wanted to turn it over to him to say a few words about himself to the Commission.
Hi, nice to meet the members of the commission, everyone here. Before joining Delmarva, I worked at the Delaware Department of Justice for 5 years, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody. So thanks for having me.
Well, welcome, Mr. Wan. Sounds like a good background, and we look forward to seeing you very soon.
Thank you.
Mr. Jordan, you want to proceed with the number one item on the regular agenda?
I can, Your Honor, if I could have just one moment, though, because there was one other public comment to
Oh, I'm
make
sorry, go ahead.
about. I seem to be becoming an expert on sending people into retirement, and one of Delmarva's own, Jim Jacoby, this is his last commission meeting before retiring. Decades of service to Delmarva Power's ratepayers. A great guy, an honest guy. He made sure that the LNG tank was ready with supply and pressure support so that natural gas would flow in the winter months. But more importantly, in his retirement, he's a Penn State fanatic, and as everybody knows, after Villanova, Penn State's the second best school in Pennsylvania. So he'll have time to attend football games. But more importantly, not only is his retirement a loss to Delmarva, it's actually a danger to fish. Anywhere within 100 miles of Mr. Jacoby, whether in a river, a pond, or a lake. I asked him the biggest fish he caught, 186-pound halibut. And, fishermen like to tell tall tales, but the thing with Jim is, he's telling you the truth. And so I just want to let him know he will be missed, and I hope every cast he makes is successful.
Well, even though I'm a Pittsburgh Panther fan, we know Mr. Jacoby, and we appreciate his long service and dedication to the citizens and the consumers of Delmarva Power and Light. So congratulations from all the commissioners. I don't know if anybody else wants to make a comment or not, but okay. Mr.
Thank you.
Jordan? Well, we can, but Mr. Jordan, I thought that while you were there, we would skip the agenda, the consent agenda and just go right to your presentations. And then that way, Ms. Graham can leave after you finish and then we can do the consent agenda.
Very well, Your Honor, and I have a few guests here who will fill in
Okay.
the chairs, so I'd like to invite them up. If Phil Vavala, Marcus Beal, and Aaron Smith. And we did send over a presentation yesterday to help with this, with understanding what's going on today, and that's what's up on the screen now. So may it please the commission, Brian Jordan on behalf of Delmarva Power and Light Company. And I did notice that for agenda number 1, there are a few items on there, including the public advocate's comments on Delmarva's general plan. So just for some general housekeeping, it was my understanding that there is no proposed order on that, and that Delmarva and the public advocate and the public advocate's engineer still need to meet to reach a consensus on that general plan. So my suggestion is that that's not necessarily part of the conversation today. Today is more about following up on the comments that were made at the last session. And so to begin, Delmarva Power and Light, it provides electric service to over 330,000 ratepayers in each of Delaware's counties. And this service goes to homes, businesses, schools, industry, shopping centers, hospitals, you name it. And Delmarva Power is obligated to provide reliable service to all of its customers. And at the last hearing, the commission heard comments from some of these ratepayers and from the public advocate about the settlement agreement we reached in our last electric rate case, specifically about the installation of these station-class arresters, study of at-the-meter surge protection, and the communication and surge reporting mechanism that were in the settlement agreement. These comments suggested that the commission, yourselves, could demand that the president of Delmarva show up, but that you wouldn't get much out of it. And they offered their own solutions. And so we're here today to update the commission on the work that Delmarva has done under the settlement agreement. Specifically, I'm talking about Section 2B, paragraphs 25 through 29, and paragraph 32. And so today, I am joined to my right by Phil Vavala. Mr. Vavala is the president of Atlantic City Electric and Delmarva Power. He will discuss aspects of the Weldon Road work informed by his personal knowledge following his visit to the site. To my left, I'm joined by Marcus Beal. Marcus is Delmarva's Director of External Affairs. He will discuss the communication and reporting commitments of the company. Also to my left is Aaron Smith. Mr. Smith is the Director of Engineering for Pepco Holdings Incorporated. Mr. Smith will discuss the work that Delmarva has done to study the at-the-meter surge protection. We'll all be glad to answer any questions that you have. I will also be speaking at different points throughout our presentation, but I will turn it over to Mr. Vavala for the first topic.
So good afternoon, Chair Winslow, fellow commissioners. It's a pleasure to be with you here this afternoon, and it's nice to see all of you again. This is my first time addressing this organization in my present capacity, but I am no stranger to Delmarva Power. I've worked at the company for at least 33 years in various capacities in engineering and in operations. And most recently, I was the Vice President of Gas and Electric Operations, so I was chiefly responsible for grid operations, storm restoration response, engineering controls, and operations of our gas business as well. I've been a Delaware resident my entire life. I've lived in Newcastle County and in the North Wilmington, Brandywine Hundred area for my entire life. I am a resident of this community, very close to the Weldon community as well. And I'm very familiar with the Tally Road, Weldon Road, Shipley Road, and the overbuild aspects of the system that we'll be discussing here today. I would like to say that as the president of the organization, my commitment to all of you and to my customers is we are, number one, absolutely focused on safety, reliability, and at the end of the day, delighting customers with the products and the services that we're providing to them, and that goes without saying. First thing I'd like to report, though, is that the Weldon Road construction that was discussed at last meeting, that's the installation of the substation class surge arresters, that has been completed on 5 additional poles in the Weldon Tally Plant area. That work began on September 5th and was completed on September 10th. I had the opportunity to walk each of those individual sites that day, the time that they were actually performing the soft dig operation before the poles were installed. And then since then, I've also toured the neighborhood as well to look and see the quality of the installation and the effectiveness, obviously, of the installation that's there. Those 5 additional sets that have been installed since the last time we had the meeting, they were selected and installed in collaboration with the Public Advocates consultant. Brian's going to talk a little bit about timeline issues shortly, but I do want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges in the area. And Ms. Graham mentioned Weldon Road in particular and the vegetation overbuild. You can see on the slide deck, or that's being presented right now, there's a view of Weldon Road, and I know it quite well. I drive it every single day I go home, and I am quite aware of the vegetation challenges we have in that stretch of the system and along the roadway there. What's also not really apparent from the photograph is also the issues that you might see when you look at the edges of the roadway there. There's gullies and drain culverts on either side, not to mention the fact that there's a significant amount of rock in the ground in that area as well. It's important to note that because the way that the construction of the system is in that area, it does have what's called a 34,000 volt overbuild on it. And if you look at that picture there, you'll see the 34,000 volt conductors that are on what's called the top deck for us, and then the second set of lines that are on that pole line are 12,000 volt lines, and that is what's typically residential distribution type voltage. What's circled there are 3 arresters. Those are substation class arresters. They're a solution to help mitigate the effects of when a tree branch, as I described already, if it were to fall against the top phases, the 34,000 volt phases, and fall down into the 12,000 volt, it would clamp that surge quickly and allow protective equipment to operate in such a way so that it could reduce the amount of transient overvoltage that would be present at a customer's property. This is a technology that's installed virtually across our system in a lot of different locations, particularly in substations, for precisely this issue. So I think it's important for this organization to see both of those photographs. One, to see the challenges of the area itself, but number 2, to see how the solution looks in implementation. The other thing I just wanted to point out is that many of these developments that were built in that area, and including mine, were built in the post-World War II time. At the time that many of those areas were not as heavily tree canopied as they are now. And certainly as time has gone by, those trees have matured, and obviously they're beautiful, and we love having them around, but at the same time do present challenges. Many of our vegetation management programs and our cycles are up to date. We continue to assess and remove hazard trees where we can secure rights to do so. But I what I'd offer with you is that many times we also have off right-of-way or other interference phenomenon that would ultimately lead to potentially a contact with 34,000 volt to the 12 and would lead to a surge event. The point that I would make is that, and we'll talk a lot around technical details and our commitment to the settlement agreement, it's important to recognize that we are always committed to innovative solutions. We're committed to trying to get to a place where we certainly can understand how we can serve our customers better. But it's specifically related to the settlement agreement. I do feel that we are trying to do our due diligence, and in the spirit of that, place ourselves in a position where we're working collaboratively with our customers. My personal visit to the site is because I'm also a resident of Brandywine 100, but it's also because I have a deep vested interest in this, and my career and my accomplishments of my commitment to other areas of reliability stand for themselves, and I would certainly provide the same level of rigor in my attention to that. So my presence here today, I hope, leaves you with the impression, at least, or that the understanding that my commitment is solid to finding a resolution and to working with our customers on this. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Vavola. Any questions? Mr. Gray?
Thank you, Mr. Vavola. I've heard Ms. Graham and you both focus on trees. So the question I have is, in the problem statement of these surges, do you draw a direct correlation to trees in every case, or are there other engineering-related issues at hand?
I would say less engineering-related issues. If you look at the totality, I believe, and we can check the record here, the totality of the events that led to surge events, it was a combination of tree, and there was also a pole accident as well with the strike that led to an interference as well. So it's a combination.
Mr. Jordan?
Thank you. And what, Commissioners, what you saw in that picture that was up there, it's reflective, too, of the construction that was done to replace 5 poles. And that turns us to the DelDOT issue and the hardship exception that we needed. And I know that this was a topic that Commissioner Gray raised at the last meeting. And something that Mr. Vavola just mentioned about the pole accident, because with DelDOT, you have a clear zone on either side of certain roads. And the problem was some of these poles were in what's called the clear zone. And so in order to replace those, what DelDOT wants is to move them out of the clear zone so a car does not swerve off the road and hit it. We had to get an exception for that. There's a slide, too, if that could be brought up on the screen there. And so what you're going to see, and what I'm going to discuss about here really, is how Delmarva effectively leveraged its resources and its relationships to clear this hardship exception and receive a general permit without disrupting our working relationship with DelDOT. DelDOT is a state agency that we have to work with almost on a daily basis on access issues, rights of ways, these hardship exceptions, and so on, so that we can deliver safe, adequate, and reliable service to our customers. That's throughout the state. At our last meeting, I mentioned there was another one involving Amazon and customers over by the Boxwood plant. So, to start, I think we can all agree that having that construction completed is a good story. And I'm not going to go through all of the bullets. If we could go back to the timeline there. There we go. But what you have there are some of the important dates that shows that even before the August 9th surge, even before the August 21st hearing, Delmarva was working to get permits in order to install these station class arresters. And you can see from this timeline when Delmarva submitted the hardship exception. We then came to learn that the person at DelDOT who clears these exceptions was out on paternity leave. Then came to learn that that person is an engineer. It's not simply somebody that they can pull in from DelDOT to clear the permit. You need the subject matter expertise to give it the diligence it requires. So what you see here, on June 26th, Delmarva advised the public advocate and the Weldon Road Homeowners Association about that DelDOT hardship request. August 5th, Delmarva Engineering followed back up with DelDOT about that hardship request. And then you can see where Delmarva's external affairs came in to play. And this started on August 20th. And this was, external affairs handles our relationships with other agencies. And what you see here is Delmarva continuing to try to get a response from DelDOT about this issue. And you can see that it was an email and a voicemail to the Director of Operations. When that didn't get anything, the next day, External Affairs followed up with the Deputy Secretary and Chief Engineer, same person, at DelDOT about the hardship request. And we continued to do that until August 28th, when DelDOT approved the hardship exception. About an hour later that morning, they cleared the general permit. So as of August 28th, we finally got the clearance to work and install these station class arresters. And what's not on this outline, but which happened, was that Delmarva then expedited its schedules. So that way, construction, which had been scheduled to take place September 16th, was able to get started on September 5th, around the Labor Day holiday. And as Mr. Vavola noted, that construction was completed by September 10th. And we wanted to make sure, Delmarva wanted to make sure that we could get this construction started and completed so we could provide the commission with an update on that today. If we can go to the next page. And so Delmarva's settlement commitments related to the overvoltage are here, and what we have here with the station class arresters, there were two commitments. There was the Weldon Tally Plan, that's the one I just talked about, that was completed on September 10th, 2024. What we had agreed to was to install these, and as you see with that last bullet, we agreed to install these as soon as practicable. That was subject to getting those hardship exceptions cleared. The next one, the general plan, this is the non-Weldon Tally overbuild. It's 75 miles of overbuilt lines. That was the subject of the general plan that Delmarva submitted along with the public advocate's comments. And the one that I mentioned at the beginning, we need to get consensus with the public advocate on, and we'll schedule a meeting with them to do that. But I want to draw your attention to that last bullet for the general plan, so that way the commission understands the timing here. Once we get that agreement, Delmarva will have 24 months to execute the general plan. So that one is still in progress, and that is one that we can continue to provide updates to the commission on if it requests so. But this is a good explanation of what's going on with that part of the settlement agreement. Now, for the next part of the settlement agreement, related to communications and reporting, I am going to turn the mic over to Marcus Beal to answer any questions and to provide the commission an update on that topic, unless the commission has questions for me on this one.
I do have a question. It might be you or for Mr. Vavela. The surge protectors that you showed us in the slide, will those protect against a lightning strike?
Commissioner Drexler, like any good lawyer, I will turn it over to the witness to answer that question.
So that technology, that device is a substation class surge arrestor. So by virtue of the way that they work, they detect a transient overvoltage, whether that's due to a contact between a higher voltage and a lower voltage, or if there is a direct lightning strike, they will also clamp and seal for those as well. It is a very statistical phenomenon, lightning strikes and traveling wave theory, but the idea behind it is that it will flash over and protect the equipment that's downstream of it. That's the idea.
Mr. Beal?
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Winslow and Commissioners. My name is Marcus Beal, Director External Affairs. Briefer bio, 20 years with the company. I'm also born and raised in Delaware, currently reside in Lewis. I'll talk a little bit today about our communications and our reporting. So the settlement agreement required several things related to communication with customers. We're to provide a one-time communication to customers on underbuilt feeders. The company completed this in August 2024 using a combination of emails and postcards mailed to customer homes. The company also developed a communication plan where the control room, our control center, notifies my team, External Affairs, of any surges. External Affairs will then determine how to communicate with customers. Our goal is to strengthen the communications with communities so that they feel heard. Another topic, we're to provide the ability for a customer to contact Delmarva Power related to a surge, irrespective of whether they intend to submit a claim. This has been completed as well, and there are processes in place to ensure it is included in our semi-annual reports. Regarding our semi-annual reporting commitments made in the settlement, the company has provided semi-annual reports since 2021 in May and November of each year. As part of the settlement, the public advocate requested Delmarva Power add some additional fields to the report: the address of any meter that had to be exchanged, the address of any customer who initiated a claim or reported a surge not via the website, feeder or circuit information for any event, map of where station class arresters have been installed, and the reason why there was an event, whether that was a tree, car accident, etc. Delmarva Power included all the new information that was available in its May 2024 report and will include it going forward. In summary, we've complied with these sections of the settlement agreement and will continue to comply with ones that are ongoing commitments. With that, I'll turn it over to Aaron, who will address the performance of this feeder as well as provide additional information on the at-the-meter solution. Thank you.
All
All right. Excuse me. Good afternoon, Chairman Winslow. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Aaron Smith. I am the Director of Central Engineering at PHI. And unfortunately, I don't have the background that Mr. Vavala and Mr. Bill both have in terms of being, Delaware residents. But I will say that I've spent most of my time now in Maryland. I'm a U.S. veteran. I've served in the U.S. military and the Navy, and I spent several years working for the Department of Defense prior to coming over to PHI. I have spent roughly 10 years within the company, and my prior role, prior to being the director of Central Engineering, I was the senior manager for transmission engineering for all of PHI. So I'm going to address, as Marcus mentioned a little earlier, regarding the reliability of the two feeders in question here. And then I'm going to jump to the other topic as we talk about the at-the-meter solution, which we're proposing, which we're taking a look at a evaluation, which is ongoing at this present time. So in terms of the reliability, and I don't know if we have it up. Okay, thank you. In terms of the reliability of the two feeders in question, Mr. Vavala mentioned earlier in terms of the overall, I would say how the assets are configured. You have the 34 kV lines that are running on top of the 13 kV lines. And in regard to the reliability of both of those lines, we're going to talk a little bit about where we are to date, as well as take a snapshot back in time, back to 2019, to take a look at the reliability of both of those feeders. On the left of this presentation here, you can see the number of outages that we've had under or on the feeder 0762. That's our 13 kV feeder, which is under the 34 kV feeder. And then the overbill feeder, DE 3331. Both of these feeders have experienced outages in the past, and I will discuss primarily our SAFE, which is our system average interruption frequency. So it's the number of outages that we've experienced on a particular feeder. The SAFE relates to, as I noted, that frequency. And basically, when we're taking a look at SAFE, not all outages are exactly alike. There are outages that can take place based on trees. There are outages that can take place based on equipment failure, as well as, and we talked about, vehicle strikes on poles and things of that sort. But the thing that I really want to pull out here is there could also be the possibility that although some customers may experience 2 outages, other customers could experience more. So we took a look at the overall average SAFE of those 2 particular feeders in question. Looking at 2019 as an example, we have a 1.63 average SAFE on the 0762 feeder, basically, which means that the average customer received less than 2 outages in that year. Some may have experienced more, as I indicated a little earlier, but the average was 1.63. We understand that if a person experiences an outage several years in a row or a few in a year, this personal reaction is why we have or why we identify the outages consistently. The data shows here that particularly on this feeder, there has been some improvement over the years. As far as the performance, every year we conduct an analysis, and that's part of why I'm here. My team is responsible for looking at the reliability metrics on our distribution lines, as well as I'm responsible for the overall vegetation management of our distribution feeders and transmission feeders throughout the service territories. As far as performance, going back to the SAFE, we utilize a method called the Texas method to develop our overall strategy and taking a look at worst performing feeders. As noted, you can see, looking at the table, I indicated at the top in 2019, we had a 1.63. It goes down to the it goes up to 1.8, and then there's a progressive, performance increase over time. With the Texas method, basically, that method in identifying worst performing feeders you're to look at feeders that have a SAFE above 2, or if you look at the overall system SAFE, if it's above 350%, then we'll identify those feeders as being part of that Texas method. I'm saying that to say, I say all that to say that of all of the outages that we've had and the SAFE indicated on those 2 feeders, those 2 feeders are not indicated in our overall worst performing feeder list. And it does not meet the criteria, as I just noted. Moving to the right-hand side of the page, this shows the causes of the outages. As I noted earlier, there are various different reasons why we have outages. It could be an animal contact, dig-ins, motor vehicle incidents. And as you see, the causes are most frequently related to vegetation on these 2 feeders, basically trees. While higher than our 2023 system average of 25% of outages being caused by vegetation-related incidents is not uncommon, it's not surprising, given the tree canopy, as Mr. Valvola mentioned, that is a particular concern. As far as the frequency of the tree trimming, I know that may be a question that may come up or in the minds of others here. We do provide a 4-year tree trimming cycle, or every 4 years we trim trees. The last time we trimmed in this particular area was in 2023. I'll jump to the next slide unless folks have any questions on that last one. Okay. Now jumping to the next topic here, as noted, we took a look at the at-the-meter solution, which was one of the requirements that we were to take a hard look at. And as I noted a little bit earlier, in terms of my responsibilities, I'm responsible for the reliability metrics associated with PHI, as well as vegetation management. But along with that responsibility, I have an additional responsibility in terms of looking at our overall distribution standards and looking at the overall equipment that we place on the system and install per our overall industry practices. And we look at not only the compatibility of equipment as is associated with the network, but we also work with our internal teams as well as external companies to ensure that equipment is safe. We have also the responsibility of documenting the overall standard use of that equipment and ensuring that employees are trained on that equipment as it's being placed in the field. As Brian mentioned earlier, we are planning to update the general surge plan with additional details related to the at-the-meter solution. But I do want to acknowledge that the company does not believe this solution alone would be satisfactory, as it is intended for the brief surges such as lightning strikes. We have worked with the public advocates consultant to also come up with the overall plan to identify the best solution possible. And we have heard from the residents of Weldon Road that are interested in ensuring that we have the right approach here. We are reviewing all different solutions and ensuring that we have the best solution moving forward. We have reached out to several different utility companies in regard to the at-the-meter solution, and we are still in the process of doing analysis on this. One of the things, and this was prior to my coming over to this role, back in July, we submitted our July 2024 general surge plan. And we did not feel comfortable with our level of understanding of the at-the-meter devices. One of the reasons why I just noted, we reached out to several utilities to include Duke Energy and others in terms of what they have in practice. And we took a look at how they deploy this solution on their system. Over the last few months, my team has worked with our meter group and has reached out to ensure, also working with several manufacturers of this equipment to understand how it works and how it's currently deployed and the technical specifications related to this equipment. We have identified 2 suppliers who appear to have compatible equipment and requested a sample from each one of them. We have a sample currently in our midst from both of the manufacturers that I'll note here, Brooks as well as Kinnick. We just received our sample from Kinnick, and then we received our sample recently from Brooks a few weeks ago as well. After more thorough evaluation of the samples, we will get them, we'll take a look at them to ensure that we have the right compatibility and define the various requirements that are needed associated with the use of this equipment on our network. Outside of compatibility, items being evaluated include, as I noted a little bit earlier, safety, making sure that in terms of the requirements that'll be in place are necessary for the electricians to work on these devices, ensuring that from that standpoint, we have the right procedural guidelines in place for electricians, and then ensuring that we update the tariff language as needed. At this time, it is quite premature to indicate the results of our research as we're still in the initial stages of it. And however, these are the types of details we intend to include in our mid-October follow-up report. So before turning it back over to Brian, I'd like to open the floor if there were any additional questions or comments that the team has.
Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Smith. I have a question about the surge protectors at the meter site. And are you anticipating, and I know you said you're still in preliminary stages of looking at these various technological surge protectors, are you anticipating that that would be something that the customer would purchase and own? Or when you think about ownership, is there any question about that? Really, who will pay for it? Like, as a ratepayer, will everybody pay for surge protectors where there's been an incident, like in this case? Or is this something you would offer to all customers?
So Commissioner, if you don't mind, I'm going to turn that question over to Brian. I'm going to stay within my swim lane, the technical swim lane, and he can answer that one.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Commissioner Drexler, that's a great segue and a great question to what I was going to talk about, which is everything that we have to look at, all of the analysis. And that's one of the questions we have to analyze. And it includes who's responsible ultimately for these surge protectors. What happens if the surge protector does not work? Who's going to be responsible if the appliances still get zapped? What if whoever installs it does not connect it correctly and it doesn't work or it gets hot? These are all questions we have to answer. Who's going to be purchasing these? Is this something that we're going to make available to the customers through us? Will we have a wholesale supplier? Will we have a warehouse where customers can go and pick it up? Who's going to install it? A Delmarva lineman, an electrician, or are the ratepayers going to hire their own electrician? And we've got to make sure that that person is licensed in the state of Delaware. Who's going to own the equipment? These are all questions that we're still analyzing. And I mention all of this to show the commission that talking about these at-the-meter surge protections is the start of the conversation, but it raises a lot of questions. No question is too small for this. As Mr. Smith mentioned, we're going to have to likely change the tariff language, which means we need to come to the commission for approval. What's the best way for us to do that? If Delmarva offers this sort of a program, do we then do we petition the commission for new regulation? I know I discussed that earlier this year. We had that discussion. Or do we go under, for example, Section 201E to get this changed? Will it be a pilot program just for Weldon Farms? And if it's successful, does it get expanded to other parts of the state? Again, these are all the questions that get raised by this. And, I appreciate the research and the connections that Mr. Nathan provided to Kinnick, but that raises its own questions when it comes to the quality of the product and what standards are they up to? Is it even compatible with the meters that we have? Does it physically fit on that meter? And so these are the questions that my people are working on. The technical aspects, Mr. Smith noted that we received the Brooks device. I believe the Kinnick device just arrived today. So we've got to do our analysis of that equipment to make sure that it is compatible. And if it is compatible, do we provide, a list, Commissioner Drexler, like you said, to the customers to say, this is an approved list of equipment. You can purchase it straight from us, or you have to go to Kennick, for example, or Brooks to purchase it. If we offer it to the customers, have we now put ourselves on the line in case that thing fails? These are all they're not easy answers. There are answers. It just takes time to get to them. And as Mr. Smith mentioned, we do have an update scheduled for mid-October, and there will be answers to these questions in that update. But we are investigating.
Thank you very much. And I have a personal interest as well because we were a victim of a surge that I think was related several years ago to lightning, and it's really bad. Like, they take everything, like everything goes. So we'd like to hear how that goes with the tests.
Absolutely, Commissioner.
Mr. Jordan, we certainly appreciate your comments and the questions you raised, but as you well know, you guys were one of the people who settled this case, right?
That is correct.
Weldon, with the Weldon people. So we sympathize with the questions you're asking, but it raises a question in my mind as to why some of these questions weren't asked before or during the settlement.
Your Honor, I can discuss that too. As this commission knows, this was not your usual settlement agreement. There is a settlement agreement that was reached December 4th, but it was not unanimous. We had an agreement with the public advocate and the interveners. We had an evidentiary hearing on the settlement agreement that was contested. Following that hearing, there was an interlocutory appeal challenging some of the hearing examiner's decisions. That was heard January 10th. January 6th, the commission denied the interlocutory appeal. I'm sorry, March 6th. March 5th, we finally got the hearing examiner's recommendation that the settlement agreement be adopted. There were exceptions filed to that. The commission ultimately agreed and entered the settlement agreement as an order on April 18th. Now, anybody had 30 days to file a motion to reconsider. And the reason I'm bringing up this long timeline is only to show that once we knew that that order was final, that the settlement agreement was accepted by the commission and finalized, that's when you see us get to work with this stuff. Because had one of those decisions gone the other way, very likely this case could have ended up litigated in front of the hearing examiner, at which point there was no settlement agreement. So that's sort of the broader legal context of where all this was. But then the slide that I spoke to with the dates on it shows that Delmarva does have a process in place to escalate and to expedite these when it hits a roadblock. And that's what we did with the DelDOT hardship exception. But those are the circumstances that we were in.
Thank you. That's a good explanation.
Thank you.
Ms. Graham, do you have any questions?
Well, I have a couple of comments, if I might.
Well, let's wait on the comments till their presentation's over with.
Okay.
Mr. Jordan?
Thank you. Chair Wind.
Actually, I do have one question, if I could ask it.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Timeline. Do you have a commitment for stages on a timeline? And of course, I realize things might not get met, but it's nice to have something that says we think we can do X by this date and, whatever. It'd be nice to have that, and I wonder if we could have that.
I think that's something that you and Mr. Jordan and the whole team that's doing this thing is going to have to get together. I don't think we can give you a timeline on all those items right now.
I didn't know if Mr. Jordan could do that, and I'm more than happy to talk to them if they will talk to me. There's no problem there for me.
Commissioners, in the settlement agreement, the language is that we agreed to complete the work in the general plan within 24 months, of agreement with the public advocate unless there is a delay beyond our direct control. And, the 24 months is there. The difficulty we run into is, again, take the DelDOT example. One thing that I hadn't mentioned about DelDOT, there were 5 poles at issue there. They approved 3 but not 2, which then you're like, why not the other 2? And so there are going to be things that come up like that. And so you can plan and you can try to work in some of these contingencies, but you can't predict. anything other than what we have and what we had agreed to within 24 months of agreement with the public advocate. We can stay in contact and communicate, but coming up with, you know, a more specific timeline than that would be extraordinarily difficult and not something that was agreed to.
Mr. Jordan?
Thank you. And, you know, I think what the commission heard here today, notwithstanding Mr. Smith's non-Delaware roots, and we won't hold that against him, we did explain to him what Happy Harry's was. What you heard here today is no matter what the company is called, Mr. Vavel has been with the company for decades. No matter who it's associated with, the focus is on Delaware. We live in the community, we provide our service to our ratepayers, who are our neighbors. And what you saw here today and heard from the company, it takes its settlement obligations seriously. It works to meet those obligations. And I'm certainly happy to continue discussions with the commission about this, or to answer any questions that the commission has, but that'll wrap up our presentation for today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jordan.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions of Mr. Jordan before we excuse him entirely? Looks like not. Ms. Graham,
Yeah, if I might.
please.
Okay, so I want to, it's interesting always sitting back and you have these reactions to things you're hearing. And I thought it was very interesting. I wrote down, I think this was your words, Mr. Vavel, and you can correct me if you said something different, but that Delmarva and he are absolutely focused on reliability and safety. And yet, we just heard from Mr. Jordan that Delmarva, which is so focused on reliability and safety, and knowing that our community was sitting there, a sitting duck for these horrendous surges, which the commissioner noted are really, really bad. And they elected not to do anything until the settlement agreement was approved. And you could say, well, okay, maybe that's fine. But I would say that's not consistent with an absolute commitment to customers. And Delmarva could have done stuff earlier. It even could have done stuff sooner after the settlement agreement. And you know how in your life when you're dealing with people, sometimes it's employees, sometimes it's a company, there are some people who just get the job done. They just do it. They figure out ways to do it. And there's other people, well, we had, Del dot this and Del dot that. And as I said to Mr. Jordan last time, I'll make a call. I'll call Del dot for you. I know people in Delaware. I know how to get stuff done. I think Delmarva needs to step out of this box, which it limits all of what it will do to just, oh, well, if there's trees in somebody's yard, we can't do anything about that. Well, they can sit and they can talk with us. You can think outside the box and have your people meet seriously with us. And we will, it's in our interest to find solutions. And we have access to resources that perhaps Delmarva does not. But I would really like to see that. And, it's a small thing in some ways, but having, what is, for those of you who haven't litigated, you don't know this, but the cardinal rule in litigation that you do is when you give something to a court, you give something to the other parties in the litigation. And, I've been in communication with Mr. Jordan, and I was very disappointed. I didn't know there was a presentation that was to be made today. I have trouble reading it on the screen and couldn't react to it. And I'm from the show me state. If you really, really, really mean that you're going to work with us, well, then give us the courtesy of giving us the presentation. I told them what I was going to talk about. So I'm looking forward to working with these people because it is definitely in our interest. But show me that you'll actually do it, because so far it just feels like if we come here and complain to you all, then something happens. But without that, it feels like we don't. And maybe Mr. Vavel will give me help, give me his phone number, and I can call him. Because right now, I hope this all goes well, but it hasn't been proven to me yet that we're going to get there.
Mr. Gray?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, first of all, I want to thank Ms. Graham for the passion she brings to the subject matter. There are very few in the public who show up in front of the commission to express their concerns. We spent a lot of time, I think, hearing from Delmarva, overseeing the regulatory process. And from my perspective, we are aware of large number of complexities associated with what needs to happen in order for the lights to come on when you flip the switch. So I give a little bit of deference to Delmarva. I think that in this forum, they've heard you and perhaps will respond accordingly. So thank you for coming. Thank you for being here, Mr. Brian. Jordan, I'm sorry. Thank you very much for the presentation along with your staff. The only thing that worried me today was I think when Mr. Beal, nope, I think it was Mr. Smith. He said they use a Texas method. And I was thinking about the Texas outage and I was scared to death. So I'm going to leave that alone for this forum, but I wish you all the best of luck to try and find an amicable solution that reaches a good outcome and consensus. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Gray. The purpose of this get-together was to have the presentation from Delmarva, and I thought that the presentation was excellent. And it seems like we've made strides forward, and we haven't satisfied Ms. Graham 100%, but I think that the goal should be to make her 100% happy. And I'm sure that going forward, we're going to have a very successful communications and timeline set and work done. And at the end of the day, the satisfaction rating for Delmarva Power and Light is going to go up. So I'm an optimistic person. And just for the record, I gave Mary a copy of the presentation.
Thank you for that.
So thank you all so much for coming, and the other two residents are here and present. Thank you for your appearance as well.
Chair.
Commissioner Conaway?
Samantha from the DPA's comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Samantha.
Hi, Chairman and Commissioners. Samantha Kane on behalf of the Delaware Division of the Public Advocate. Ruth Ann is currently in Washington, D.C. meeting with FERC commissioners, so I am filling in for her. I want to ask if it's appropriate, if I may ask our engineer, Greg Booth, who should be on the line, if he had any questions for Delmarva's team.
Mr. Booth?
Thank you, Greg. And Commissioners, I have one question, if it's okay. Mr. Smith, do you by chance know how long the surge arrestor can take the increased voltage before it stops performing its job?
That's a great question. I don't have that information right now readily available, but I'll be sure to get back to you on that one.
Thank you. No more questions from the DPA. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Could I just ask that Mr. Smith also provide that to maybe Mr. Jordan or Mr. Beal, who can provide it to me?
I will spearhead the response, Commissioners, and make sure that Ms. Graham and the public advocate get the answer.
Thank you very much. If that's all, thank you, Mr. Vavla, Mr. Beal, Mr. Smith. Pleasure to see you guys. And I was just tell Mr. Smith that my next door neighbor in Lewis, Delaware, is from Maryland, and he saves $1,000 a month in real estate taxes by living next to me. So come on over to Delaware. Question, go ahead.
I apologize. I'm Victoria Groff. I'm the Deputy Attorney General representing the Public Advocate's Office. I just wanted to point out to the Commission that the comments on file from the Public Advocate were filed prior to some of the surge arresters that were placed. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of the timeline. The installation that occurred close to Labor Day weekend occurred after the comments that the DPA placed on file.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Let's go to the next matter then. Thank you. Okay, let's go back to the consent agenda, Commissioners, and get that accomplished. Is there anyone that wishes to take a matter off the consent agenda and place it on the regular agenda? Hearing none, may we have a motion on the consent agenda?
I move that we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second the motion?
Is there any discussion on the motion to approve the consent agenda? Hearing none, Commissioner Correa. Aye. Commissioner Conaway.
Aye.
Commissioner Drexler.
Aye.
Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. We will now go to the second matter on the regular agenda. In the matter of the application of Chesapeake Utilities Corporation for a general increase, et cetera, and we welcome Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you, Chair Winslow and Commissioners. Bill O'Brien on behalf of Chesapeake Utilities Corporation. I do have a part of Chesapeake's regulatory team here. You may have already met Marie Kozel and Jeremy Schneider, but I do not believe you've met Joey Ball, who is sitting to my right. She is Senior Manager of Regulatory Affairs. She hails from South Florida, land of the very high property taxes. But she's with us here today to meet the commission and to help kick off this rate case.
Welcome.
Thank you. What you have before you is proposed order number 10534, which is the opening order for Chesapeake's rate case, which is its first rate case since 2015. As an opening order, it does assign a hearing examiner. It directs the company to publish public notice of the filing and the proposed increase in rates. It approves interim rates effective October 11th, which are, of course, subject to refund pending the completion of the proceeding. In this case, we certainly look forward to working with staff and the public advocate. And to that end, we'd like to welcome the Public Advocate's new DAG, as well as their new outside counsel, not new to the Delaware Bar, not new to the commission, but certainly new to the Public Advocate, as well as the newish DAGs for staff. Thank you.
Ms. Sweeney?
And of course, the seasoned outside counsel for staff. Didn't know what adjective to use there, which is why I skipped over him. But with that, we ask that you approve order number 10534 and thank the public advocate and staff for the work on this order. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Winslow and Commissioners. Victoria Sweeney on behalf of staff. Staff is in support of the proposed order.
Ms. Groff?
The DPA supports the proposed form of order.
Actually, I'm only going to comment because I thought I was going to have a speaking role, and I've been here, for an hour and I haven't said anything, which is unusual. I will only comment on Mr. O'Brien's support of the order that it also suspends the existing application in exchange for interim rates, so that their application that they filed for, those rates will not go into effect at the moment, but instead interim rates pursuant to the statute, $2.5 million, or the interim, I should just say, the interim rates will go into effect. Otherwise, it was perfect.
That sounds like an experienced person talking. Mr. Murphy has not been with us for how long?
Oh, it's been a few years.
Yeah, and we missed you. Do you have any comment to make to help us in this case?
No, I don't. Mr.
Good. So he's an experienced lawyer as well. Commissioners, a motion, please?
I move that we adopt order number just a moment.
534.
Yes, 10534, as submitted.
I second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Correa?
Aye.
Conaway?
Aye.
Drexler?
Aye.
Gray?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you.
Cuba? Number 3 is in the matter of the application of Tidewater Utilities for approval of deferred accounting treatment for costs associated with lead service line identification and inventory. Welcome, Ms. Scott.
Thank you, Chair Winslow and Commissioners. Pam Scott here on behalf of Tidewater. I also have with me Bruce Patrick with Tidewater, who has been working on this matter. You have a proposed form of order before you, but just to give a little bit of background, we filed our petition on July 18th requesting approval of a deferred accounting treatment for costs associated with lead service line identification and inventorying. This is something that we're required to do by the EPA. In fact, we have to meet this requirement and make a submission to them by October 16th of this year. We have retained 2 consultants to assist with this. To date, as of May 31st, we've incurred about $238,000, but we believe when all is said and done, it'll be approximately $2.1 million to complete this process. Once the inventory submission has been made, to the extent that there were any pipes where we couldn't certainly determine whether lead was involved or not, we will have to go back and further investigate that and come to a final conclusion and make potentially an additional submission to the EPA. Obviously, the costs that we're talking about are new costs that we are not currently recovering in our rates. We did have conversations, both Mr. Patrick and Kirsten Higgins had conversations with staff and DPA about this issue. And as a result of that, you have in front of you proposed order 10540 that provides the history that I discussed, but also talks about what the parties have essentially agreed to, which is that we will file with the commission a proposed method of recovery of the amounts to be collected, including cost to complete the identification of any unknown service lines, no later than 45 days after we have made the submission to the EPA on the 16th of October. The proposed method of recovery would be a temporary rate rider utilized to recover a fixed amount from each customer over a period not to exceed 3 years. And we would work with both staff and BPA to finalize the details of that proposed recovery method and obviously submit that to commission for further review and hopefully approval. I would like to thank both staff and DPA for their willingness to sit down and talk to the appropriate parties at Tidewater about this and about the process we're going through, and would ask that the commission approve the order as proposed. And we can certainly answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Ms. Sweeney?
Staff is in support of the proposed form of order.
Ms. Groff?
DPA supports the proposed form of order.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Move that we accept order number 10540 as presented.
I second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Commissioner Correa? Mr. Conaway?
Aye.
Mr. Drexler?
Aye.
Mr. Gray?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion carries, and the proposed order is in the pipeline.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick, for being here. Okay, we have number 4 next. It's the application of Artesian Water Company, Inc. for approval of deferred accounting treatment for costs associated with lead service line identification and inventory. Sounds pretty familiar.
It does. Good afternoon, Chair Winslow and Commissioners. In the interest of time, essentially ditto. I will save you a recitation of everything in our application in order as they are veritably the same. I'm here on behalf of Artesian Water Company, Courtney Emerson. I'm joined today by Dave Spakes, our CFO. Likewise, we are required to do the lead and copper inventory by the EPA, which is due October 16th. The amount that we are seeking a deferred regulatory asset treatment for is $155,000 approximately, which is the cost that we've incurred with the one consultant that we have engaged to perform this inventory. Our proposed form of order was collaborated on by ZPA and staff as well, and it has the same conditions as the one that Tidewater just had entered, including the submission of the proposed recovery methodology and then the 3-year limitation. To the extent that we need to do any replacement of lines, we would come back for that on a separate application. Barring any questions for either Dave or I would like to thank staff and DPA for their efforts on the proposed order and request that the commission enter proposed order 10541.
Thank you, Ms. Emerson. Ms. Sweeney?
Staff supports the proposed form of order.
Ms. Groff?
DPA supports the proposed form of order.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Drexler?
I move that we adopt proposed order number 10541 as presented.
Second the motion.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Commissioner Correa? Commissioner Conaway?
Aye.
Commissioner Drexler?
Aye.
Mr. Gray?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion carries, and the proposed order, as I said, is in the pipeline. Just a comment, though, since we got Mr. Noyes here, I want to include him in this message. And the commissioners were at a commissioners-only meeting for the last 3 days. It's really pretty valuable to see what's going on in the other states. But one of the things we've been briefed on is the water issues. In other words, what we really just got finished doing is the beginning of an increase to our customers' bills. And then we got PFOS and PFO and who knows whatever FOs are out there in addition to that, and there are probably some, which is going to be a large sum of money. And of course, there's litigation going on, and there's requests for the government to help pay. So all of this is important for everyone to understand, industry and the commission, and as we work as hard as possible to find ways to save money for the consumers as well. So, and do our work in this particular circumstance as efficiently and as cost effectively as possible. So just want to make those comments to you all. And thank you, Mr. Spate, and Ms. Sweeney, for your patience in sitting back there to say nothing at all. Unless you want to say something. No? Okay.
Good, thank you.
Great and well, thank you.
Okay, we have number 5, which is in the matter of the application of the petition of the staff of the Delaware Public Service Commission regarding Delmarva Power and Light's electric interconnection process. And it's number 5. It's proposed order number 10542. And we have Ms. Shen with us, right? Ms. Shen? Please proceed.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Chair.
it's a state's application, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Yes. So, good afternoon. Today's staff is proposing order number 10542 to open a docket regarding Delmarva electric interconnection process for community energy facilities. Public notice of the docket will be published on the Delmarva and PSC websites by September 24th, and the intervention deadline is set for October 14th. Staff has not conducted a comprehensive review of the interconnection process since approximately 2011, and the advent of community solar has increased the number and complexity of interconnection projects in Delaware. And staff has looked forward to working with hearing examiner Kenton to develop a process and schedule that enables staff to collect information it needs to craft a report on issues and recommendations for a path forward.
Thank you very much. Ms. Shen?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Zishang Shen on behalf of Delmarva Power and Light Company. Delmarva supports proposed order 10542, opening this docket, and we look forward to working with staff on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Groff,
The public advocate has no comment on this matter.
commissioners?
I have a question for Ms. Sweeney. You're talking about a report regarding interconnection. Will that include cost as it compares with other states? Interconnection cost?
I believe I might defer to my trustee advisor on this, Ms. Gannon.
Hello. I expect that that is one of the issues that is going to be raised once we solicit comments from the parties, and that we will be looking at in terms of recommendations.
Trish, you want to identify yourself for the record?
Oh, hi. Tricia Gannon,
Thank you.
Delaware Public Service Commission.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you're ready, I'd like to offer and move that the commission adopt order number 10542 as submitted.
Second the motion?
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Commissioner Correa? Aye. Commissioner Conaway?
Aye.
Commissioner Drexler?
Aye.
And I, Commissioner Gray?
Aye.
And I vote aye. The motion carries. And we will be considering 10542 in the immediate future. Thank you, Ms. Shen. Ms. Sweeney, Ms. Groff. Number 6 is in the matter of the application of Delmarva Power and Light Company for approval of modifications to its gas cost rates.
Good afternoon again, Chair Winslow, Commissioners. Zishang Shen on behalf of Delmarva Power and Light Company. This item pertains to the application filed by Delmarva on August 28, 2024, requesting approval to modify its gas cost rates, or GCR. The application includes proposed modifications as follows. These include revised demand and commodity charges applicable to service classifications MVG and LVG, revised volumetrically applied GCR factors applicable to service classifications RG, RGSA, GG, GL, and non-electing MVG, and as well as changes to the balancing charge, transition cost adjustment charge, and pressure support fee. Delmarva respectfully requests the Commission enter proposed order number 10543, which opens the docket for the 2024 through 2025 GCR period. The order allows the proposed GCR changes to go into effect November 1st, 2024, with proration and subject to refund following the Commission's final decision. The order also grants Delmarva's request to remove the audit requirement starting calendar year 2024. The order sets a deadline of October 22nd, 2024 for petitions for intervention and objections or written comments by November 19th, 2024. And Delmarva thanks staff for preparing the proposed order and for allowing us the opportunity to review and comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shen. Ms. Sweeney,
Staff supports the proposed form of order.
Ms. Groff,
The DPA has no comment on this.
commissioners?
Move we adopt order number 10543 as presented.
I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Commissioner Correa? Aye. Commissioner Conaway?
Aye.
Commissioner Drexler?
Aye.
Mr. Gray?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion carries, and the proposed order will be considered. Next, we have our hearing schedule. Number 1 on the hearing schedule is in the matter of the application of Delmarva Power and Light Company for the approval of the 2024 program for procurement of solar renewable energy credits. And we have Ms. Shen again for Delmarva Power and Light. So please proceed.
Thank you, Chair, and Commissioners. Again, Zishang Shen on behalf of Delmarva Power and Light Company. With me today is James Jacoby, Senior Manager of Gas Supply and Transportation for Delmarva Power. We thank the Commission for the opportunity to present our application for the 2024 Solar Renewable Energy Credit, or SREC, procurement program, which was filed by Delmarva Power on August 14th. Consistent with prior years, the 2024 application included a program outline for the 2024 program, proposed form of the SREC transfer agreement, and a black line showing changes from the 2023 program and agreement. Delmarva Power published notice of today's hearing on its website on August 23rd and filed an affidavit of publication on August 29th. Before we turn to witness testimony, I would like to request permission to present to the Commission copies of an exhibit log containing pre-filed exhibits, if I may.
There's no objection, I assume?
No objection.
We enter that into the record. Without objection.
At this time, I would like to call Mr. Jacoby as the witness on behalf of Delmarva and ask that he be sworn in.
I do.
Can you please state your full name for the record?
James B. Jacoby,
By whom are you employed?
Delmarva Power.
And Mr. Jacoby, what do you do for Delmarva Power?
I am the Senior Manager for Gas Supply and Transportation in our Energy Acquisition Department.
And what does that entail?
I'm responsible for developing and managing safe, adequate gas and renewable energy supplies for our Delmarva Power customers.
And Mr. Jacoby, how long have you been with the company?
34 years.
And as part of your duties and responsibilities, do you serve as Delmarva Power's representative to the Renewable Energy Task Force?
Yes, I do.
What is the purpose of the Renewable Energy Task Force?
The task force was established by law to make recommendations about the SREC procurement program and other emergent renewable energy topics.
Did you participate in the meetings and discussions that took place through the task force to develop the 2024 SREC procurement program?
Yes, I did.
Was a vote taken by the task force in connection with this application?
Yes.
Was the vote taken at a public meeting?
Yes.
Did anyone provide public comments at the meeting where the vote was taken?
No.
Was the vote unanimous?
Yes, it was unanimous, with all members voting in support of the 2024 application, including support from PSC staff, DPA, DENREC, and a representative from Delaware's Solar Energy Coalition.
Before we discuss the specifics of the 2024 program, can you provide some background about the 2023 auction?
Yeah, the 2023 auction went smoothly and had robust bid activity. Our final pricing, on average, came in at about $30, which is, in some cases, significantly lower than the current spot market that we're seeing. So the level of activity in some of the tiers that were bid was less than we would have liked. But in general, the pricing was acceptable and we hit the volume targets we were looking for in the majority of the tiers.
And when did Delmarva file the 2024 application?
On August 14th, 2024.
Mr. Jacoby, can you describe what has changed between the 2023 program and the 2024 program?
Yes, the primary differences between 2023 and 2024 are outlined in staff's memo to the commission. And those differences include, one, we decreased the discretionary SREC target volume associated with the gamma tier from 14,000 SRECs targeted to 10,000. That change was made as a result of lower than expected participation last year. So the adjustment downward was to make it more realistic. Secondly, we added a new discretionary tier called Delta for up to 10,000 SRECs for large-scale in-state Delaware projects with a contract term of 5 years. Of note, that 5-year term is selected to provide a little additional option for bidders versus the traditional 25-year contract that has been put in the procurements previously.
And how many SRECs will Delmarva acquire through the auction?
The target amount is a minimum of 11,000 SRECs with a maximum of 31,000. And that'll be dependent upon pricing.
And from what tiers can Delmarva acquire those SRECs?
So the alpha tier provides approximately 6,000 SRECs. The beta tier is 5,000 SRECs. The gamma tier is 10,000 SRECs. And the delta tier is also 10,000 SRECs. Of note, after alpha and beta tiers have been filled by winning bids, Delmarva at its discretion may purchase up to an additional 10,000 SRECs from the gamma tier and or lowest price losing bid from any tier to achieve its maximum purchase not to exceed 31,000 SRECs. The delta tier bid price discretion and awards will be considered entirely differently from the pricing discretion that we apply to alpha, beta, and gamma tiers due to the difference in contract length. The information describing the tiers in detail is included in the application on page 18 and described on pages 19 and 20, and is also set forth in the staff memo on pages 3 and 4.
Other than the changes we have been discussing, are there any provisions of the program that remain the same from the 2023 auction?
Yes, in general, the task force retained the structure and processes of the 2023 program, particularly with respect to alpha, beta, and gamma tiers. They remain 25-year contracts. The first 10 years at fixed price, compensated at the SREC bid price, and then the final 15 years compensated at a lower fixed price. Again, the procurement contains limitations that bids that are rejected for price in any tier cannot be used to backfill other tiers. It also includes an in-state siting requirement for the alpha and beta tiers. It also requires that community solar projects enter the appropriate tier based on their system sizes, attributes, and other system criteria.
Did any party seek to intervene in this matter?
Yes, the DPA filed a statutory notice of intervention on August 14th, and DENREC also filed a petition for intervention on September 13th, 2024.
Were any comments filed in response to this application?
No.
Did staff prepare a memo for the commission concerning this matter?
Yes, staff prepared a memo dated September 11th, 2024.
And did staff reach any conclusions in its memo?
Yes, the staff memo indicates that staff supports the changes to the procurement process set forth in Delmarva's 2024 application and recommends that the commission approve the application.
Thank you. And Mr. Jacoby is available for cross-examination.
Sweeney?
Staff does not have any questions for this witness.
Ms. Groff?
The DPA does not have any questions for this witness.
Ms. Scott?
DENREC has no comment on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jacoby.
You're welcome.
Best wishes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. In conclusion, the 2024 procurement program, as developed and approved by the Renewable Energy Task Force, complies with all applicable statutory and regulatory requirements and is in the public interest. And as such, Delmarva Power respectfully requests that the 2024 application be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shen. Ms. Sweeney?
Staff has one witness that I would like to call, and that is Mr. Brian Geller. Please state your name for the and address for the record.
My name is Brian Geller. My business address is 861 Silver Lake Boulevard, Suite 100, Dover, Delaware 19904.
Who is your current employer and what is your position title?
I am employed by the Delaware Public Service Commission as a public utility analyst.
What is your educational and professional background?
I have a bachelor's degree in business from Pierce College, and I've been an analyst with the commission for about a year.
What was your role in this matter, docket number 24-0912?
I was the case manager for this docket filing. I reviewed the application for Delmarva's 2024 SREC procurement program, and I attended the Renewable Energy Task Force meetings where the program was discussed.
Please describe the purpose and intent of Delmarva's filing.
On August 14th, 2024, Delmarva filed the application for the approval of the 2024 program for the procurement of solar renewable energy credits, or SRECs for short. The purpose of this filing is to provide Delmarva the opportunity to meet SREC obligations as defined in Delaware's Renewable Energy Portfolio Standards Act through long-term contracts. The 2024 program is a continuation of the 2012 pilot program through the 2023 procurement program. The 2024 program allows Delmarva to leverage in-state and out-of-state SRECs in an auction format, thereby minimizing program cost and costs to ratepayers. With much uncertainty regarding the future of SREC prices, the 2024 program allows Delmarva to hedge against future price increases.
Aside from giving Delmarva the ability to hedge, are there any other benefits associated with the 2024 program?
Yes, the 2024 program also provides homeowners who have elected to purchase solar panels a potential revenue stream to help offset project costs. The program extends that same potential revenue stream to larger commercial and utility scale solar systems, both in and out of state. This incentivizes solar adoption.
Delmarva's asked the commission in prior years to approve the SREC program, so how is the 2024 program different, if it is different, from the 2023 program approved by the commission in order number 10281?
The primary differences is the target SREC purchase volume in the gamma tier decreased from 14,000 SRECs to 10,000 SRECs for any system size up to 5 megawatts. And the program now includes the addition of the Delta tier for in-state systems greater than 2 megawatts in size. And this new Delta tier has a shorter 5-year contract term.
Do you know why these were changes that were made to the 2024 program?
The rationale for the decrease in the number of potential gamma tier SREC purchases reflects the lack of participation in this tier in previous years. The reason for the addition of the Delta tier is to diversify the bidding options for participants and provide another option for the Delaware community energy facilities to participate in the auction.
Please describe the basic format and the details of the auction.
The program has 4 auction tiers: Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Delta. Each tier has its own specific requirements for eligibility. The Alpha tier is for new in-state, small, and medium-scale systems, less than or equal to 350 kilowatts. This tier has 25-year contracts as in prior years. The Beta tier is for new in-state large-scale systems greater than 350 kilowatt, but less than or equal to 2 megawatt. This tier has 25-year contracts as in the prior year. The Gamma tier is a discretionary tier for out-of-state systems and in-state systems that cannot participate in either the Alpha or the Beta tier. This tier allows system sizes up to 5 megawatts and has 25-year contracts as in prior years. The Delta tier is a discretionary tier for new, in-state, large-scale systems greater than 2 megawatts in size. And then this tier again has a 5-year contract. For the 2024 program, new systems are defined as having an interconnection approval date on or after September 29th, 2023, which was the date of the last auction. Total number of SRECs to be purchased is between 11,000 to a maximum of 31,000.
Previously, you mentioned the Renewable Energy Task Force. What is the task force and what role did the task force play, if any, in the development of the 2024 program?
2024 program was designed and refined over many months by the Renewable Energy Task Force. The task force is a group legislatively mandated to make recommendations about the establishment of trading mechanisms and other structures to support the growth of renewable energy markets in Delaware. The task force is made up of cross-functional members that include state agencies, utilities, the sustainable energy utility, and the solar industry. All parties here today, staff, the DPA, Delmarva, and DENREC, are active participants on the task force. All task force meetings are conducted in a public forum.
Did the task force recommend the approval of the 2024 program?
Yes, the 2024 program had a unanimous consent in support of the task force.
Was the public made aware of this filing and given the opportunity to file comments?
Yes, pursuant to Commission Order 10515, Delmarva published public notice on their website of its application and the time, date, and location of the evidentiary hearing on September 18th, 2024. Staff also had the public notice posted to the Commission website. No public comments were received.
What are your recommendations?
Staff supports the approval of Delmarva's application for the 2024 program because it aligns with the Renewable Energy Task Force recommendation, complies with the Delaware Code, Commission regulations, prior Commission orders, and applicable laws. It is for these reasons that staff respectfully recommends the Commission approve the 2024 program.
Do you believe that your recommendations are in the public interest and will result in rates that are just and reasonable?
Yes, I do. I would like to note as well that if the 2024 program is not approved, Delmarva would still be required to purchase SRECs pursuant to its RPS obligations. These purchases would have to be made in the SREC spot market where prices can vary widely from month to month.
That concludes Mr. Geller's testimony, and he is available for cross-examination.
Are there any questions of Mr. Geller? Doesn't appear that there's any questions. Ms. Scott?
No questions.
Any further witnesses?
None from staff.
Ms. Scott, would you like to proceed, please?
Yes, good afternoon, Chair Winslow, members of the commission. My name's Deborah Scott. I'm a Deputy Attorney General, and I represent DENREC. And with me today is Brett Swan from the State Energy Office. Would you please state your name and workplace for the, oh, I'm sorry, it's been a while.
Yes.
Please state your name and workplace for the record.
I'm Brett Swan. I work for the State Energy Office located in DENREC's Division of Climate, Coastal, and Energy, and our office is located at 100 West Water Street in Dover.
What do you do at DENREC?
I'm a planner 4 specializing in energy policy. I'm staff lead for the Governor's Energy Advisory Council, updating the state energy plan, and I staff the Renewable Energy Task Force.
What are your qualifications to testify on this matter?
I have 6 years of experience in state and local government policy and administration, including 5 years with DENREC and an MPA from the University of Delaware. Specific to the Renewable Energy Task Force, I've staffed the task force since I joined DENREC in 2019.
What is the purpose of your testimony?
I'll describe the work of the Renewable Energy Task Force in developing the SREC procurement program and conclude by recommending that the Commission approve Delmarva's application as meeting the requirements and policy objectives of the Renewable Energy Portfolio Standards Act.
What is the statutory mandate to the task force?
The Renewable Energy Task Force is charged with offering recommendations for the Commission based on the statutory mandates found in REPSA, which include establishing balanced market mechanisms for REC and SREC trading, meaning meeting the legitimate needs of SREC buyers and sellers, minimizing the cost, establishing revenue certainty for renewable energy, including long-term contracts and auction mechanisms, and ensuring that systems of various sizes are financially viable and cost-effective investments in Delaware.
How has solar grown since the inception of the task force?
Solar in Delaware has grown from 818 systems totaling 8.8 megawatts at the end of 2010 to 9,076 systems totaling 219.7 megawatts at the end of 2023, according to PSC certification records. So far, another 11 megawatts has been added this year.
Can you describe the role of the Renewable Energy Task Force in developing the 2024 SREC program?
The task force met 3 times between February 8th and April 25th of this year to develop the SREC program. Right at the outset, we emphasized that we wanted to make minimal changes to the auction structure to maintain consistency and to not significantly delay the next auction. However, members acknowledged that we should consider changes that would result in a more robust auction. We worked hard with the SEU, DPA, staff, and all stakeholders to ensure that all pieces work together as smoothly and as efficiently as possible. At the end of the process, the task force approved this SREC plan unanimously.
What has changed from previous auctions?
This auction features two changes from the previous auction. First, the discretionary SREC target purchase volume and the gamma tier decreases from 14,000 to 10,000 SRECs. And second, a new discretionary delta tier for up to 10,000 SRECs for large-scale, greater than 2 megawatt in-state Delaware projects. The contract term for the delta tier is 5 years at the bid price. This tier is designed to be more attractive to larger projects which have expressed interest in shorter-term contracts and are seeking shorter-term price stability.
Can you report on how many SRECs are being provided by the pre-buy program?
Delmarva Power informed us that the company reported 879 SRECs retired in the 2022-2023 RPS compliance year and expects to report that 9,724 SRECs in the 2023-24 compliance year for a total of 10,603 SRECs in the 2 years of the SREC pre-buy program.
Could you summarize your testimony, please?
The task force has crafted a simplified SREC procurement plan through a stakeholder process established by REPSA that builds on the experience of the last 13 years, supports a stable market system for all sizes, and balances REPSA's key considerations. DENREC respectfully requests that the Commission take note of the consensus we forged and approve the 2024 SREC program as consistent with REPSA and in the public interest.
Does that conclude your testimony?
It does. Thank you.
And Mr. Swan is available.
Any questions?
None from staff.
No questions from the DPA.
None from Delmarva.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott and Mr. Swain. Okay, should we have Ms. Groff? Do you have anything at all on this?
The DPA has no witness, but we support the proposed form of order.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions?
I move that we approve proposed order number 10535 as presented.
Second the motion?
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Commissioner Correa? Aye. Commissioner Conaway?
Aye.
Mr. Drexler?
Aye.
Mr. Gray?
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion carries. Thank you all very much. Next matter is in the, gosh, I guess we have, number 2. We have in the matter of the provision of renewable energy portfolio standards compliance charge to retail customers in the service territory of Delmarva Power and Light. We have order number 10536, and we have Mr. Jordan.
Good afternoon, Chair Winslow, Commissioners. Brian Jordan on behalf of Delmarva Power and Light. May it please the Commission, this is Delmarva's annual application for the Renewable Portfolio Standards Charge for the period June 1, 2024 through May 31, 2025. Just some housekeeping to note, on March 27, 2024 is when Delmarva filed its annual Renewable Portfolio Standards application, the purpose of which is to update the electric tariff rates for the charge for that period I mentioned, June 1, 2024 through May 31, 2025. Before getting into witnesses and testimony, I did want to thank the other parties for their efforts in this docket and for allowing us to present it. So today, I have two witnesses, Brian Talley to my right, to my far right, and also Jim Jacoby to my immediate right, as witnesses to support this application. Before swearing in Mr. Talley, I do have an exhibit log that I would like to hand up to the Commission that I have discussed with opposing counsel. I believe that there are no objections, and so at this time, I would move in, there are 6 exhibits listed in the exhibit log.
No objections from staff.
No objections from the DPA.
The exhibits are entered without objection.
Thank you, and Delmarva Power and Light calls Brian Talley. Mr. Talley, can you state your full name for the record?
Sure. Brian P. Talley.
Mr. Talley, where do you work?
I work for PHI Service Company primarily on behalf of Delmarva Power. My business address is 500 North Wakefield Drive, Newark, Delaware, 19702.
What is your job title?
My job title is Manager of Revenue Requirements.
And how long have you been in that position?
I've been in that exact position over 7 years, but I've worked with a family of Exelon companies for over 18 in various roles, including accounting, finance, and other regulatory positions.
Mr. Talley, what is your educational background?
I hold a Bachelor of Science in Accounting and a Master's in Business Administration from University of Delaware, and I also hold I'm a certified public accountant in the state of Pennsylvania.
Mr. Talley, were you involved in the preparation of this filing that was submitted on March 27, 2024?
Yes, I am primarily responsible for this filing.
Can you briefly explain the purpose of the filing?
The purpose of this filing is to revise the electric tariff rates for the Renewable Portfolio Standards, or RPS, charge for the period of June 1st, 2024 through May 31st of 2025. The revised rates include estimates for the projected period plus prior period true-ups for the over-under recovered balances.
Mr. Talley, what was the filing composed of?
This filing was composed of revised tariff sheets, RPS charge calculations, rate change percentage, and supporting work papers.
And in preparing this filing, did you use a methodology that has been consistent throughout previous filings?
Yes.
In connection with the filing, did you also schedule a meeting with Commission staff and the Public Advocate's Office to review the documents?
Yes, we held a technical conference via video conference on July 25th, 2024, and later answered both formal and informal discovery questions.
And Mr. Talley, was notice of this application published in a newspaper of record as required by Commission Order 10440?
Yes, on May 12th, 2024, and also on May 15th, 2024.
And Mr. Talley, were affidavits of publication filed with the Public Service Commission?
Yes, they were on May 15th, 2024, and also on May 17th, 2024.
Are these rates currently in effect?
Yes, these charge rates were put into effect on a temporary basis effective June 1st, 2024, as authorized by Order Number 10440.
Has staff issued a memo approving as final the rates that went into effect on a temporary basis on June 1, 2023?
Yes, Mr. Geller's memo dated September 11th, 2024 recommends the rate be approved as final.
Mr. Talley, what is the bill impact as a result of this filing?
A typical residential customer using 811 kilowatt hours per month on average has seen an increase of approximately $1.22 per month. To be clear, should the Commission elect to enter the proposed order number 10536, the rates currently in effect will not change and will not increase any further.
And Mr. Talley, in your opinion, is this in the public interest and resulting in just and reasonable rates?
Yes.
Do you have any further testimony at this time?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Talley is available for cross-examination.
Any cross-examination?
No cross from staff.
No cross from DPA.
Next witness, please, Mr. Jordan.
Your Honor, Delmarva will actually rest at this point. I will reserve Mr. Jacoby in case there are questions from the Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff has one witness, and that's Mr. Brian Geller. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Brian Geller. My address is 861 Silver Lake Boulevard, Suite 100, Dover, Delaware, 19904.
Who's your current employer and what is your position title?
I'm employed by the Delaware Public Service Commission as a public utility analyst.
What is your educational and professional background?
I have a bachelor's degree in business from Pierce College. I've been an analyst with the Commission for about a year. Prior to that, I do have over 10 years' experience in finance and analyzing financial documents.
What is your role in this matter?
I was the case manager in this docket filing.
And what is this particular proceeding for?
On March 27th, 2024, Delmarva Power filed the application for the approval of the 2024 Renewable Portfolio Standard, or RPS rate charge. According to the company's tariffs, the rate went from 0.004872 cents per kilowatt hour 0.006367 cents per kilowatt hour, an increase of approximately 31%. Commission approved the proposed rates on a temporary basis with proration, subject to refund in order number 10440, dated May 1st, 2024.
What caused the increase in the RPS rate?
For the prior year, the 2023 application, Delmarva realized a higher than forecast price for the sale of wind into the energy market. This resulted in a 24% decrease to the RPS rate last year. We understood that this was unexpected and that the rate would adjust this year back in line with prior years. For comparison, the rate filed in the 2022 application was 0.00641 cents per kilowatt hour, only a 0.69% variance from this year's filed rate.
What's the monthly bill impact of the rate increase?
For a residential customer with an average usage of 811 kilowatt hours per month, they will see an increase of $1.22 per month.
Please summarize the Renewable Portfolio Standard Act.
As explained on DENREC's website, Delaware's Renewable Energy Portfolio Standards Act is intended to establish a market in Delaware for electricity from renewable sources and to lower the cost of renewable energy to consumers. The act allows utilities to meet their portfolio standards by buying renewable energy credits, or RECs, and solar renewable energy credits, or SRECs, from wind, solar, and other renewable sources. Delaware's Renewable Energy Portfolio Standards Act includes minimum percentages of electric energy sales with eligible energy resources and solar renewable energy resources. These percentages increase on a yearly basis up to year 2035. Companies procure RECs and SRECs and any other attributes to comply with the minimum percentages in the Act. The cost of compliance is reflected in the annual rate filed by Delmarva.
What was the nature of your review in this matter?
I attended a technical conference with Delmarva Power and the DPA on July 25th, 2024, and submitted discovery questions to Delmarva after the conference. I reviewed calculations, invoices, and worksheets comprising the summation of the RPS rate.
What did you find as part of your analysis?
After reviewing the submitted documentation and the company's native files, I found no substantive errors. I did find that based on Delmarva's forecast, they will be unable to obtain at least 85% of the required number of RECs for the 2023-2024 compliance year at a price below the $25 alternative compliance payment price established in 26 Delaware Code Section 358.
Please explain the purpose of the alternative compliance payment.
The alternative compliance payment, or ACP, is a set dollar amount per megawatt hour the company may submit in lieu of supplying the minimum percentage of renewable energy as set in Delaware's RPS. This price is currently set at $150 per megawatt hour for SRECs and $25 per megawatt hour for RECs. The alternative compliance payment price was set to help control Delmarva's compliance costs and ultimately help control impacts to ratepayers. If Delmarva is unable to purchase the necessary SRECs or RECs to comply with their yearly RPS target at a price below the ACP set prices, then Delmarva may pay the alternative compliance payment to DENREC's Green Energy Fund for the difference.
Based on your review, what is the projected shortage?
Based on the review of the application, Delmarva is projecting a shortage of 500,000 RECs or more for the June 23 to May 2024 compliance year, which equates to an alternative compliance payment of approximately $13 million. They will file their RPS compliance report for the 2023-2024 compliance year by September 30th, 2024, which will indicate the actual shortage in payment amount.
What is the impact of the ACP payment on Delmarva's RPS compliance?
This will be the second consecutive year that Delmarva is unable to obtain at least 85% of the required number of RECs below the $25 price, and will be making an ACP payment. As a result, the provisions of 26 Delaware Code subsection 358D will take effect.
What exactly do those provisions entail?
If the alternative compliance payments representing 15% or more of the total number of required RECs are paid into the fund for each of 2 consecutive compliance years, then then the minimum percentage established under Delaware's RPS will remain at the percentage for the immediately preceding year. In essence, the percentage freezes and the yearly increases stop. This freeze remains in place until a compliance year in which the company is able to obtain more than 85% of the required RECs below the $25 price.
What percentage will the company freeze?
Delmarva will freeze at the 2023 level, which is 20% for RECs.
And what impact does that freeze have on solar renewable energy resources?
Delaware's renewable energy portfolio standards provides the minimum percentage per year of electricity sales from renewable sources. It explicitly states the total and a carve-out for solar. The freeze that occurs will be in place for the non-solar only, or the RECs. The solar renewable energy resources will still continue to increase yearly, as outlined in 26 Delaware Code 354. So the Delaware solar industry should not be impacted by the REC freeze.
Did staff receive any public comments pertaining to this application?
Staff received no public comments.
Is there any other information you'd like to provide for this matter?
Yes, I would just like to note that according to Delmarva's 2022-2023 RPS annual compliance filing, the RECs that were purchased to meet their obligation came from bloom offsets and wind contracts from out-of-state systems. While Delmarva did make an ACP for the 2022-2023 compliance year, and it is anticipated to make an ACP for the 2023-2024 compliance year, those funds are paid to the Green Energy Fund, which benefits Delaware residents. Taken with the fact that the SRECs purchased by Delmarva are mainly from Delaware systems, this allows more of the RPS costs to benefit Delawareans in various ways, since Delaware ratepayers are ultimately paying the cost.
And what are your recommendations?
Staff respectfully recommends that the commission approve as final the RPS charge rate that went into effect on a temporary basis on June 1st, 2024 with proration for the period from June 1st, 2024 to May 31st, 2025.
Do you believe that this recommendation will result in rates that are just and reasonable and in the public's interest?
Yes, I do.
This concludes Mr. Geller's testimony. He's available for cross-examination.
Mr. Chairman?
Jordan?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I have a question of this witness.
We'll wait for a second, please. Commissioner Gray? Mr. Jordan?
Thank you. I just had one question for Mr. Geller. Mr. Geller, staff published notice of today's hearing on its website, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Commissioner Gray?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Geller, thank you. So, with respect to the ACP charge, what I heard is if they cannot acquire for $25 or less, then they pay the ACP charge. Does that charge vary year by year, or is it baked in at $25 and fixed?
That charge is fixed at $25 in the Delaware Code.
And when we are looking at renewable energy portfolio standards compliance charge, that's a different charge in the ACP?
Yes, so the RPS compliance charge is what is Delmarva's overall cost for complying with all of Delaware's RPS requirements. The ACP is a piece of that charge overall.
Okay, thank you very much. No further question, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Groff, I assumed you had no questions. I apologize. Do you have any questions?
Your assumption was correct. The DPA has no questions.
Okay. Any other commissioner questions? Commissioner Conaway,
Yes, sir.
would you kindly make a motion?
I would like to move that we adopt order number 10536 as presented.
I second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Commissioner Correa? Aye. Mr. Conaway?
Aye.
Mr. Drexler?
Aye.
Mr. Gray?
Aye.
And I vote aye. The motion carries, and the order is in effect, and thank you to everyone.
Thank you.
Ms. Clausy, would you come up forward, please? Oh, look.
Izzy is slightly under the weather today.
Well, occasionally we get the joy of congratulating someone on their accomplishments at work, and Izzy has got 5 years under her belt now. So we have this nice pin for you. And we also have this nice certificate that you got the 5 years in.
Okay.
So I congratulate you and thank you for your service, and I hope that the 35 more years, 25 more years.
Take it one day at a time.
Mr. Hardigan?
Thanks,
Oh,
Chairman.
I'm sorry, before you start.
Yes.
Tricia Gannon and Matt Hardigan, I just wanted to express my appreciation to both of you. I had to speak and participate in the Northeast Offshore Wind Collaborative, and I had to speak at the Maryland, D.C. Energy Association. The only reason I was reasonably successful is because of the fine work that Matt did and Tricia did supporting me. And I just want you to know I appreciate that. So thank you, and Mr. Hardigan.
Thanks, Chairman Winslow. Appreciate that. I did have a couple of regional energy updates that are not lengthy, but medium term, and I can push those to next month in the interest of time if you'd like, or can cover them now.
Do we need to act on any of them?
No action.
Commissioner Drexler does tomorrow.
Oh.
Okay.
You need, do you want the authorization of the whole commission with respect to that?
No, just your opinion. Oh, of the letter, you mean?
Could we get just a quick brief?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So the first issue, and maybe the only one I'll cover today, is the recent PJM capacity auction, which we haven't updated you on publicly, but you've probably seen in the press. The price that auction produced was about $270 per megawatt day, or almost 10 times what it was the year before. It's actually higher in other zones like Dominion and BGE, but PJM primarily said that this was a function of basic supply and demand economics, less supply with coal plants retiring, greater demand with data centers coming online, and the electrification of the transportation industry with more EVs and the building industry. And then there were also other PJM market changes baked in as part of the critical issue fast path process that PJM went through, all leading to this extremely high price. So typically these auctions, as you know, are done on a 3-year forward basis, but the CIFP, that process had the effect of delaying the auction. So now the auctions are kind of pancaked. There was one in July, there'll be one in December, and one again next June. So this has taken up a lot of staff time at OPSI in terms of determining what PJM can do to kind of relieve the pressure. Prices, we're not afraid of high prices, but they should be reflective of sound market fundamentals, and in this case, we don't think they are. So there's a letter that staff has, OPSI staff has produced that the board will consider tomorrow, that identifies different ways, 3 or 4 different ways that PJM can adjust the supply portion of the equation to offer some relief in the December auction. We've had conversations with PJM management, their staff. They have been reluctant to make any changes. They feel as though they've tweaked the capacity auction rules so much that they wanted to try to live through a few auctions before making other changes, and we don't think that's reasonable based on the result from this most recent auction. The PJM board has been silent on the results of the auction. So this board, or the letter before the OPSI board tomorrow asks PJM board to kind of address this and direct PJM staff to make some changes before the December auction. So that's kind of where that stands.
And after as well.
But yes, there's longer term things that PJM should do, but definitely things that they can do in the interim before December to, like I said, relieve the pressure on some prices.
Okay. So the regional commissioners spent, state commissioners spent the last 3 days, and this was an issue that continued to hit the table. We even spent time in front of FERC, a couple of the commissioners. So sight unseen, I would say you've got my support. I don't know where the chairman is running out to, but maybe he'll support it as well.
I support it. Excellent letter. Commissioner Gray interrupted me and I was
Sorry about that, Mr. Chair.
No, that's fine. So, anyway, like I said, that'll come up before the OPSI board tomorrow and, hopefully get, unanimous support.
I would just ask if Commissioner Correa is still on the line, would we gain his support for this as well on behalf of OPSI?
Interestingly, when we have votes like this of the OPSI board, it's done throughout the day, and sometimes we do them live on the phone, and we always vote first as Delaware. So it's on our shoulders to vote first, and everybody follows suit. So you know, we don't have the luxury of knowing how everybody else is going to vote necessarily. So as a leader in the voting, it's important that we're all on the same page.
Well, and this issue is critically important for, you know, fair and reasonable rates on our ratepayers. So I think most of the commissioners in the room over the past 3 days would have absolutely supported this direction.
Thank you very much. The second item I wanted to update you on is FERC Order 1920. That was a fairly significant order from FERC issued in May that concerns cost allocation, transmission cost allocation, and regional planning. Both PJM and the transmission owners have responsibilities in the order to engage with the states. We've begun that process, and again, we're kind of working as an OPSI group to do that. The order requires PJM to do planning on a slightly longer time frame than they're used to. The order requires a 20-year time frame. PJM normally plans today out to 15 years. It also requires the transmission owners to engage with the states to come up with a default or ex-ante cost allocation for transmission projects. So just wanted to report that, you know, we're just getting underway with this project or process. There have been over 50 requests for clarification to FERC on the order, including from OPSI. FERC has not acted on those yet. However, the PJM and the transmission owners are acting on the original order, which has a compliance date for them of July of 2025 to make a filing at FERC. So with the 6-month engagement period and that deadline looming, we've begun meeting with both PJM and the TOs so that they can fulfill their obligations in the order as it currently stands. The order does introduce a new term called a relevant state entity, which is primarily the entity in the state responsible for transmission cost approval and also siting, which is us, and it's at most PSCs. However, it's not clear what other state agencies can participate in these meetings. The transmission owners in the one meeting we had with them seem to take a strict interpretation of the order to say, for example, like the DPA or the State Energy Office or the Governor's Office may be able to listen to the calls but not ask questions. So we're trying to sort all those things out. Also, there's some question about the makeup of FERC. This was not a unanimous decision. Commissioner Christie dissented and opposed the order pretty strongly. He said it was a pretty big transgression on states' rights and giving too much power to FERC and the TOs in terms of transmission planning. So depending on the election here in a few weeks, the presidential election, you know, obviously the chairmanship of FERC may change. And the future of this order then would, and the rehearing requests would probably take a different tact. So all that to say, you know, we're kind of progressing along the timelines of the original order, but not really sure where this is going to lead.
And wait until you get to the topic of data centers.
Yeah. So That is all I have today, Chairman Winslow.
In addition to what I believe that Commissioner Gray explained to you all when I was elsewhere, we talked to David Wright, who is a commissioner at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and he had some interesting insights about nuclear, one of which is that he's estimating that the permit period might be approximately 18 months to 24 months, but that there are several opportunities in the market, so to speak, and that one entity or one state and entities is looking at multiple nuclear plants. So they'd have a nuclear plant made, and then they would just replicate that, which would make it more efficient, less expensive. And he also prognosticated that these would be coming online in a period of time from, like, if I recall correctly, 2028, 29 through 32. So I thought that was good news. He also indicated that the Department of Energy has $300 billion through the Infrastructure Act, and that they're looking at, I think, approximately 87 coal plants nationwide that can be converted to, possibly be, some of them can be converted to nuclear. So there's some exciting things going on out there, and it's, I'm not sure if it's nice to be part of that or not, Mr. Noyes, but it's challenging and interesting at the same time.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just footnote a couple of your comments. The nuclear conversation that was held in D.C. was one more of small modular nuclear generation to support, in some cases, behind the meter for data centers, which have a tremendous load requirement. And so the concept in the conversation went along the lines of, are they standardizing these things before they deploy them? What happens to spent fuel? How do they get secured? And so, it was a great conversation, although the devil's always in the details. But it seemed as though Department of Energy and NRC are moving forward with vendors and looking at supply chains and trying to establish where is the value proposition for getting some of these deployed as the load growth continues to expand.
Just to be clear, it's not just data centers. It's chemical plants and other vendors out there that have a need perhaps for a consistent, stable source of energy, but they might want to do it. Well, the military is looking at a much smaller, more movable sources of energy. So in any case, it's exciting, and we'll just follow it as it goes along. If there's nothing else, we're going to adjourn. Thank you all very much.